welcome back to my channel, Hasty Books. I'm Camila, and today I'm taking you through some of the books that I've purchased in the first 3 months of 2023. I cannot believe we're already 3 months, like it's April tomorrow, and I cannot believe it. It's just going by so quickly. But yeah, I've been purchasing books only a few times. I think there's 5 instances that I've purchased books only in the last 3 months, so actually that's not bad. And technically one of those is actually books I pre-ordered. I just got them in January. So yeah, that's kind of exciting. I thought I would go, I would film as I go, but I forgot / deleted some content. So here we are. So all of these books, as I said, I've purchased them on like multiple trips. So this isn't just like I did a haul and I bought like 15 books in one go. No, I'm not trying not to do that anymore. I have to have a really good sale or be visiting a book town for that to happen. But anyway, we're going to start with the first 4 books, which are the books I had pre-ordered. So I think in September, October, I don't remember when, I pre-ordered an advent calendar of books. That was through the Rare Birds bookshop. I actually still have it. I was meant to recycle it, but I still have it, so I thought I would show you. It was 24 days of reading by Rare Bird bookshop. And it's based in Edinburgh. I visited earlier in 2022 and it's really nice. I love it. And it's a place that kind of focuses on literature and nonfiction by women. And so there was 24 little doors, and behind each, every day you do a little blurb, and then I'd be like, ooh, I've read this book. Oh, I think this is this book. And sometimes I was like, I've never heard of this. Intriguing. And at the end of the month, so this costed like a certain amount, and at the end of the month, you pick 4 of these doors. You go online, you pre-order them. So on the 25th or 26th of December, I picked my books and I went online, ordered them, and I got them in January. So here they are. The first one is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I haven't actually figured out that that's what it was from the blurb, but it was intriguing, and then I was kind of searching for it. Found out it was this book, and I've heard only amazing things about this book, so I was like, yes, I'm in. I'll get to it. And I realized I've mentioned this book before because I think it was in my 10 romance books for Valentine's Day video, which you should go and check out if you want some recommendation if you're not into romance. So yeah, this is one that is on my TBR. I actually started it just before the Women's Prize was announced, and I'm about 30 pages in, so it's not very much. But it is actually so funny and so not what I expected from Discover. So yeah, I think I'm going to like it, but I need to keep it. Maybe I'll bring it on holiday at some point. But yeah, exciting. Next was Assembly by Natasha Brown. This one really intrigued me because the blurb almost sounded like Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, and I was like, it can't be, because clearly they were mentioning how the husband was white. So I was like, clearly then the woman, the main character, must not be white. And that was really intriguing. And I received this and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been meaning to read this book because I've heard about it lots, and it's actually really short, so I actually just need to read it probably again when I finish reading for the Women's Prize. Then I have this one, The Fair Botanist by Sarah Sheridan. This is one I was really excited. I remember it was the door on the 24th of December because I opened it and I was like, I know what this is and I want to read it, so I'm definitely ordering that one. This was the highest one on my list of I must pre-order one of this. So I'm very excited. It's about a woman who kind of goes off to Edinburgh to escape some sort of thing from her past. And I think she becomes involved with like there's an exhibit at the Royal Botanics and stuff like that. So very exciting. And a book based in Scotland, so yay. And finally, the last book that I pre-ordered on this advent calendar was The View Was Exhausting by Michaela Clements and Anjuli Dutta. And I have never heard of this. The blurb was just interesting, and I was clearly feeling from all of these clearly feeling a bit in the light mood, because some of the other stuff was a bit more horror, and I was just like, nah, I'm not in the mood for that. I was clearly in the mood for something light, and I ordered this one. I think it's about as a woman of color in Hollywood, Wynne knows she must work harder than everyone else to control her public image. And I was just sold. So I'm keen to read this. So yeah, so these are the 4 books that I got through my advent calendar. I'm actually quite pleased with these 4 and with the selection that was available, and I'm kind of keen to maybe do it again. I'll see how it goes and how my budget stretches later this year if I want to pre-order it again. And in January again, we went to my university town because I registered for my PhD, and I ended up popping by one of the main bookshelves I love, and I just cannot stop myself from buying books when I go in there. So I bought 2 books. So the first one was Why Women Read Fiction, The Stories of Our Lives by Helen Taylor. I do not know why I picked this up. I was just really intrigued, and I just love to read nonfiction about books. So I think it's because I was in like the feminist / literary criticism section, which are the 2 sections I'm always into. And this one just captured my attention because it talks about how this book came out just before the pandemic in 2019. And it got a lot of attention, basically, is what she writes in the beginning. And she said that everything closed down. We're facing a world without travel, socializing, art events, bookshops, festivals, etc. Publishing a book about reading fiction seemed trivial, and I reflect miserably on what felt like wasted years of research. But then I remembered all the words women had sent or spoken to me about why they loved independent nonfiction, and what a lifesaver it was in times of struggle, trial, and tragedy. I emailed some of my correspondents and friends and asked if they were reading fiction during the 3 lockdowns. Indeed they were, and their partners, and their children too. In spring 2021, at the end of the deadly winter lockdown, the Publishers Associated reported a 16% rise in fiction sales, with audio downloads rocketing by 37%. The reading agency survey found that 31% were reading more, with a spike of 45% amongst 18 to 24-year-olds. With time on their hand and the need for challenging and interesting diversion, people had turned to fiction. And so it just captured my attention. I will try to get to it at some point this year, but well, I always say that. And the second book that I bought was This Is the Canon, Decolonize Your Bookshelf in 50 Books. One of my kind of goals in reading, especially since I've been looking at stats of my reading, is I guess realizing that I read a lot of like white authors when I read classics. Or, if I focus on reading women, then a lot of white women. So I think it's just trying to kind of go outside of what we know and what we've been told is the canon, what we've been told to read since we were young, especially if we come from older generations or whatever. I know I'm only 33, but I'm just saying, growing up, definitely don't feel we read much by authors of color. So this was really interesting. So it just goes through 50 books like this, and with a little blurb about what kind of why to read it and stuff like that and what it's about. I think there's a couple I've read before, but I haven't gone through the whole list. But I'm very intrigued, and I wanted to find out more by authors of color that I hadn't heard of before, that are classics in different countries, and also just thought I'd encourage these authors as well. And finally, when we were in town, I popped by a bookshop to look for my huge classic of 2023, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I'm going to be reading this as a buddy read with Nix from Nix Reads. We need to start at some point, hopefully after the Women's Prize, because I'm currently reading far too much. This is daunting. This is really daunting. But anyway, I found it for a couple quid at the charity shop, so I just snapped it because I've been looking for, a secondhand copy. So I'm very pleased with that. On other trips, I also bought 2 more books to the charity shop. So the first one is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I've been looking for this for a few years. I first read Moreno Garcia during the pandemic, I think. I read Mexican Gothic. I have a few of other books, but this is one of her, I think, if not her first book, I'm not sure. But I've just been really looking forward to it. I think it's more like YA, but I'm just kind of interested in it. And I thought when I saw it, I had to snatch it. And same with this other book that I found in a different charity shop, The Sunlight Pilgrims by Jenny Fagan. I'm so excited for this. When I saw that, I was literally gasping. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I've been looking for this book for years. I read another book by Jenny Fagan a couple of years ago, and I do not remember. It wasn't that memorable. I did not love it that much, but I was looking into her, books that she's written, and this one really appealed to me. And it's basically like a cli-fi, a climate crisis fiction. So it's actually based in November 2020. Lols, we all knew the world was going to end in 2020. And the world has frozen over. And it's basically these people who are living in Scotland and trying to, live after the world has ended. And it sounded really, really cool. So I was glad to see it, and I just love this cover. So yeah. And finally, the last 2 books that I'm just going to talk about quickly are 2 books that I got while we were visiting Spain in February. Actually, I can't believe it. I think this means that I haven't bought books since February. I haven't bought books in March at all. I think I've been so focused on the Women's Prize for Fiction. I haven't had time for anything else. But our hotel was literally across the street from a little library, which was actually surprised. But every time we come upon a library or a bookshop, I'm always just like, oh, look. And my husband's like, mm-hmm. So we obviously had to pop in because I thought I could buy something in Spanish. So I bought El Príncipe de la Niebla by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I read this a couple years ago in English. I have it somewhere in my library. And I thought, you know, it's a good start to maybe try to read another book in Spanish as well. And this is more kind of YA. So it's kind of written quite large. And I think it's probably going to be a bit easier than if I dived into something much larger of his, you know. So that's a good way to start. And the other one was also one that was kind of a little bit also potentially easy to read. It is Platero y Yo by Juan Ramón Jiménez, who I believe won the Nobel Prize. Is this correct? Yes, in 1956. He's an author from Spain. And I remember I mentioned it to my dad when I bought it. I was like, oh, I bought a book in Spain. And he was just like, oh my God, I loved that book when I was growing up. We used to read it in school. And I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. So it's about his donkey. I think his donkey is Platero. And yeah, I'm kind of excited. It's really funny because I was looking at books and I wasn't sure. My husband picked this one up and he's like, look, it's small and it's a donkey. And I was like, okay. And it turns out he picked up the perfect book of kind of what I wanted to see. The kind of little... it's all about his donkey, I believe, but the kind of little chapters or like short stories that you kind of go through. So, you know, slowly but surely I will try to make my way through this as well. But yeah, this is a bit of a kind of overview of the books that I bought in January and February, it turns out, only those 2 months. And I'm very happy, actually. I think there's quite a broad mix: classic, contemporary literature, nonfiction, Spanish. Love it, you know. I think it shows a little bit as well the kind of travels I've been up to. And yeah, I'm quite keen. I always love to buy a book. And I want to get to all of them, and then I don't. Anyway, let's not get into that. Anyway, have you bought any good book recently? Let me know. And if you've read any of these books, let me know as well. Let me know which one you think I should start with. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and hasty back. Bye!